play a game today, shall we? I'll give you two statements, one truth, one myth. Guess which one is the myth. Statement number 1. Lifting weights can make women look bulky, therefore they should do more cardio. Statement number 2. Eating low-fat or fat-free foods is not actually healthy for you. Which one is the myth? Which one is the truth? Write a comment below, and the first one to answer it correctly will win 1 month free in my membership. The reason I'm talking about myths is there are so many, especially when it comes to weight loss, lifting weights, fitness, and overall health. This is why today I want to tackle 5 top weight loss tips that are actually myths and can damage your body if you're a woman. Now there's actually 7, but 3 fall under the same category. I'll explain that as we go. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. And if we haven't met yet, hi, I'm Lex. Nice to meet you. Let's get into the first one that I first heard about 25 years ago, and I still hear about it today. It's like it just won't go away. And that is women need to do more cardio than weights, which is extremely damaging for the body and for the brain, actually. Lifting weights has been shown over and over again to be the ultimate way of exercising. Now, not everyone loves it. Not everyone loves going to the gym. I get that. And at first, if you're on this journey in the beginning, you'll have to find what you enjoy, whether that's running or yoga or swimming or whatever it is. It's still better to be somewhat active than not active at all. However, when it comes to your overall health and longevity, muscle plays a crucial role because muscle density becomes more and more important every decade as you age. And if you don't work out, you are losing muscle with each decade, starting at the age of 40, because you have not been using it. The body will not maintain what's not used. Having said that, it's the same for the bones. When you're lifting weights, when you're challenging your body, your bone density becomes better. It was quite common when I had women in my fitness studio years ago. They would walk in telling me they have osteoporosis, osteoarthritis. Their doctors have told them their bone density is too low, their bones are frail, and we start doing resistance training, we start doing strength training, and within 6 months, they completely reverse their bone density. This becomes more and more important the more we age. And this is why you hear often about women breaking their hips or falling down and breaking their bones as they age, and we don't want that. So let's start lifting some weights, shall we? Now, cardio has its place. It's not all bad. Although I will say it is deathly boring because I swear when I step on that treadmill, the time has stopped. I'm looking at it, the seconds are going by, but it seems like every second is taking like a minute and a half. If you ask me of my machine of choice when it comes to cardio, it is by far Stairmaster. And yes, it's like a death trap because you're constantly going up the stairs, but it's usually available when you walk into the gym, and you don't need more than 10-15 minutes on it to feel like you ran a marathon. Again, if you're starting out, you have to take it easy, but check that machine out if your gym has it. You'll hate me while you're on it, but you'll love me when you're done. A note on cardio, if you're trying to burn body fat. You walk into a gym, you have the most energy, you have the most glycogen in your body, you want to hit the weights. The heavier you lift, the better. Now there's a couple ways you can incorporate cardio. One of the ways is supersetted. So as you're lifting weights, you're changing things up, you maybe even going in a circuit as you're training, so you're challenging your muscle, but you're not letting your heart rest much in between, so your heart rate stays up all the time. This is one way to incorporate cardio. It's actually super healthy. You can also look up HIIT, high intensity interval training, also known as HIIT training, which is another form of strength training. Another way to incorporate cardio is once you hit the weights and you have exhausted your body and all the glycogen stores in your body on lifting weights, you go and you hit steady state cardio. Because at that point, the chances are you are actually in the fat burning zone. But if you just walk into the gym and you go and you hit the cardio machine and you think you're burning the body fat, you are not. There's plenty of glycogen stored in your blood and your body that needs to be used up first. This is why you want to go and hit the weights first. And a note on bulkiness. We as women do not have enough testosterone naturally in our bodies to become bulky. Every time somebody would walk into my studio and they would say, I just don't want to lift too much because I don't want to become bulky, I would say, honey, if you happen to wake up one day, you look in the mirror and say, oh, where did all these muscles come from? We're going to back off strength training then. Until then, let's push it. Because what women do is we see images of bodybuilders over the years and we think, I don't want to look like that. The thing is, most bodybuilders have been using more supplements that are necessary to help them grow that much muscle. Secondly, they have been working out regularly for at least 10 years, if not more. They have a strict sleeping, eating, workout regimen, and you don't just become bulky overnight. So let's drop that one. Let's start doing cardio afterwards or incorporate it in between weightlifting, and let's live happier, longer, healthier lives. Now, drop me a comment below if that's you. If you are the one that has ever said, I don't want to get too bulky. I'm not going to judge you. I just want to hear from you. Another weight loss tip that I see is always revolving around some kind of a diet. Let's talk about diets, shall we? I hear people say all the time, oh, when I went keto, I started feeling amazing. Carnivore saved me. I dropped the weight and I feel great. Paleo made me drop all the inflammation and I've never felt better, and so on and so on. We're looking at long-term effects when I talk about weight loss. Short-term, of course you're going to feel better, because you've been eating all the junk, you haven't been paying attention to what you're eating. So whatever diet you start on, you're going to feel great because you're not eating junk and you're actually paying attention to what you're eating and probably how much you're eating as well. However, what is the long-term effect on that? And you have to address the psychology. You have to talk about your well-being, your emotions, your thoughts, and your relationship with food if you want to change for good. Diet culture is awful. It teaches you there's a start date, there's a stop date, and you have to do it perfectly in between. And the moment you don't do it perfectly, you have failed. And when you do that, you start feeling diminished. You diminish your self-worth because you feel like you failed, you didn't have the willpower, and you start blaming yourself. It's also changing too much all at once, which is not how our brain works. This is why you can do a 14-day, 21-day, 28-day diet plan, but after that, you tend to go back to your old habits because it's too much all at once for your brain to change. Brain loves habits. It doesn't like changing them. So when it comes to diets, you may want to look into keto and paleo and carnivore and whatever other diets are out there. I don't even know anymore, and take what's good about them and then incorporate that into your daily life. You also want to change one small thing at a time, not all at once. You want to focus on health, not the weight. When you focus on health, you won't have to worry about dieting. And you want to find healthier versions of your favorite foods so you never feel restricted or deprived. Okay, under this same dieting category, I want to put a myth or a weight loss tip that is not beneficial in the long run, and that is calorie restriction or calorie counting. Because when you're watching the calories, you're not focused on what you're eating, you're focused on how much you're eating. When you look at a product, you may look into nutritional value, but you're actually not looking at ingredients. And it's the ingredients that really matter because not all calories are the same. Even though, let's say, avocado and seed oils are in the same fatty category, your body behaves completely different depending on what you're eating. When you're counting calories, you're probably under-eating or maybe even overeating your protein, because one thing under counting calories I hear a lot is macros. A lot of people go under macros and say, this is how much protein I need, this is how many carbs I need, this is how much fat I need, and then I have to stick to that. And most of the time when that happens, people come to me and they say, I can't eat that much protein. Yeah, because you typically don't need that much. However, most Americans do not eat enough protein. So I have two questions for you if you're confused as to how much protein you're eating. One, is protein included in every one of your meals? If so, great. Two, is it about 1/3 of your plate? If so, you're on the right track. Another thing about calorie counting is it typically assumes that everybody's the same. If you go to these food calculators for some reason, when women are trying to lose weight, it's typically putting them around what I've seen, 1,200 to 1,500 calories a day. Or if they have reported that they're eating 2,000 or 2,300 calories a day, it drops them to 1,800 calories. All of that is fine and dandy at first. You're going to get some weight loss at first, but your metabolism will slow down. Your metabolism will adjust so that your body will burn only the new amount of calories you're eating. And that's not what you want, because all of a sudden you're eating less and less and less to lose more and more weight, and you're feeling restricted, you're feeling deprived, you're not feeling like you can do this long term. Now, I hear people argue with me on this all the time when they're like, calorie counting works, I dropped the weight. Now, It's usually men, for one, which their body operates completely differently. And two, when I ask them, okay, well, you dropped how much weight? Great. How long ago was that? Did you gain the weight back? Typically they say, yeah, I gain it back. This is why I do calorie restriction at least once a year. Why are we trying to yo-yo? I don't know why we would think that yo-yoing is okay. Why is it okay for me to get to a certain weight and then say, oh no, I need to drop the weight, reduce calories, and do that? Overall, that's damaging your metabolism. That's not what we're after here. And I do have a whole video dedicated to the whole calorie versus fasting. You may want to check that out after this video to hear more about what calorie restriction does to your body. One more weight loss tip that falls under this category of dieting is eating low-fat, fat-free, or sugar-free foods. So here's the deal. When something says fat-free, if you check the sugar, it's usually sugar high. If it says sugar-free, it's typically high in unhealthy fats and high in fake sugars, which are also damaging your gut lining. And again, if you don't know the connection between your gut and eating, you may want to check that video I have as well. I got you covered in all kinds of areas. You just tell me what you need to learn about, baby. Then let's talk about fats. Not all fats are created equal. I mentioned earlier avocado and seed oils, completely different. So when you're eating high fat diet that's considered healthy, such as eating more salmon, avocados, avocado oil, olive oil, grass-fed butter, getting more fats from nuts and seeds, those are healthy fats, and those have completely different effect on your body than when you're eating things with seed oils or with trans fats or anything else that's out there. That's just yuck. First, you have to differentiate, well, when they're talking about fat-free, what kind of fat are we talking about? Second of all, what's the sugar content in there? Now, when it comes to sugar-free, like I mentioned, artificial sweeteners are also damaging your gut, and there are so many studies that have shown this. For example, the artificial sweeteners will not spike your insulin with that meal, which is great because we don't want to spike the insulin. However, it's going to spike insulin even more with the next meal you have that doesn't have necessarily artificial sweeteners at all. Also, you just got to think about common sense. Like, how have humans lived for thousands of years? And why is it that even in 70s, people were not obese or overweight? We have to look at what we've done to food in the last 50 to 80 years. Why is it so different now? Why are people obese? Why are people overweight? Why are cancer rates growing? What is actually happening in our environment? And when you do that, you look at artificial sweeteners as what they are, which is basically a poison to your body. Again, you can argue with me to say, well, in low amounts, it's not damaging. Yes, but in low amounts in everything makes it a high amount at the end of the day. And if you have that in everything every day, that's a really large amount over a course of a few years. As you can tell, I'm a little bit passionate about this. The next weight loss tip that I want to talk about is fasting. Now, if you've been watching me for a while, you're like, what are you talking about? You talk about fasting all the time. Yes, but fasting for women is different than fasting for men. Everything you hear about fasting is typically coming from men, and studies have been done on men. We need more studies on women. We have different hormones, and we have to fast according to our cycle. Now, I have a whole playlist on fasting as a woman. You may want to check that out if you need more information on it. In short, from the first day of our period till about the day of ovulation, about day 13 to 14, which is middle of our cycle, that's when estrogen is high. That's when you can fast as hardcore as you want. During the ovulation time, estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone are growing. You don't necessarily want to fast as hardcore. And then the last week before your period is when progesterone peaks and you don't want to fast hardcore at all. At that time, I don't recommend more than 10 to 12 hour fasting. That doesn't mean you go to town and you eat everything in front of you. It just means that you're spreading what you're eating over a longer eating window. And that is why we crave carbs at the time as well. Progesterone likes carbs and it doesn't like fasting. Again, if you need more information, check out the playlist. I explain everything in detail. Now, if you need more idea on healthy recipes, I do have a recipe book out. You may want to check that out. I'll leave the link in the description. See what it's about and if it's the right choice for you. Because healthy food can be yummy. And it should be. You should not feel deprived. Another weight loss tip is stepping on the scale to measure whether you've gained or lost weight. I want you to look at that scale as your biggest enemy. It's your frenemy because it never brings you good news. For one, your weight fluctuates. Again, according to your cycle, you are holding on to more or less water. And right before your cycle and even during your cycle, you could be holding up to 5 to even 10 pounds of water, which when you step on the scale, you have no idea. You just feel depressed because the number is not going in the right direction and you're doing everything right. And let's face it, there's nothing worse than doing everything right and feeling like you're getting nowhere. It's like you studied for the exam, you gave it your all, and you got an F. That's what it feels like, doesn't it? But that's not how our body works. We're trying to push logic on our body. If I drop the calories, I will lose weight. That's just not how our body works. And different bodies work differently. Some people lose weight steadily and then plateau. Some people plateau and then the weight just drops. And they plateau again and the weight just drops. And you may not know this about your body yet. So when you're emotionally connected to that number on the scale and you feel depressed and that you don't want to go forward, you are more likely to give up. And the scale is just full of emotions. It is emotionally destroying you. I had a client who would weigh herself every day, and she had weight issues. She could never get to the weight that she wanted. As a matter of fact, she yo-yoed in the higher numbers where she didn't want to be. I told her to stop weighing herself every day, and she was like, no, I can't do that. That makes me feel like I'm more in control. And I asked her the hard question. Has it helped you be in control? Are you in control? And she said no. I said, well, how do you feel when you step on that scale every morning? She did this in the morning as soon as she would wake up. And she would say, well, not so great. And then I explained to her, which I'm hoping you're getting from this too, is now you're starting your day with the crappiest news. The things you hear in the morning as you're waking up and in the evening as you're falling asleep are the most important things that are setting up your day or your night and the energy with it. So when she would weigh herself every morning, and that's how she would start her day, it just started off the day awful. But as you can already guess, it was an addiction for her. She couldn't just stop. So we had to work through a process of slowly starting to weigh herself once a week. Then we went to once every 2 weeks and then once a month. So if you absolutely have to use the scale, use it once a month and on the same day of your cycle every month. You don't need to weigh yourself more than that. Now, sure, you want to measure your progress. So you may want to take a tape measure and measure inches around your waist, around your thighs, around your arms. The most important one is around your waist, right at the belly button. You can also tighten your abs and then pinch your skin from your belly button to as much as you can grab the body fat, and you want to measure maybe that. I had a client that was emotionally connected to even that, so she used a ribbon. She didn't want even to see the numbers, and every month she would cut that ribbon a bit, and that was progress. Scale and emotions are very complex. This is why you don't want to step on the scale. Now, do you step on the scale? I want you to write me in the comment below, how often do you weigh yourself? And then write down, how do you feel as you're stepping on the scale? Are you fearful? Are you hopeful? Are you nervous? Are you excited? And then how do you feel when you see the number? Is it generally good? Is it generally bad? Is it disappointment? Is it lack of self-esteem at the moment? What is it? What are you feeling in that moment? Now, whether you are open to write a comment or not, which I would appreciate if you do, I want you to at least evaluate that, because you'll notice that the scale never brings good news. Even when you lose weight on the scale, your thought will go, I could have really dropped a little bit more. I could have lost a little bit more. And then that makes you diet harder, eat more low-fat, fat-free foods, starve yourself, which makes you jump back to all the foods that you feel deprived from, and the cycle continues. This is not about short-term success, because short-term makes you yo-yo. This is all about long-term effects. One more weight loss tip that I see going around, especially these days, that is driving me nuts, is taking weight loss pills such as whatever the latest one is, Ozempic or whatever it's called. That is one of the worst things you can do for yourself. And here's why. It's not addressing your relationship with yourself. It's not addressing your relationship with food. It is not addressing what's actually causing you to gain weight. And if you start going down the rabbit hole, you're going to find out where the money is and why it's pushed so much on the public, which I'm not going to get into in this video. You have to address the root cause. Otherwise, you're going to either have to be on that pill forever, which, oh my God, I hope to God you're not, or you will gain the weight after you get off of that pill. Now, in this particular drug, for example, they have been shown that the patients are actually losing more muscle muscle mass than body fat, which is extremely damaging for the body long term anyway. Plus, it's got side effects, okay? When you're working on yourself, when you're healing your relationship with yourself and food, when you're approaching this from the health perspective, you go into fasting, you find out what works for your body, there are no side effects. You are only left to feel better. And we didn't just gain the weight overnight. Like I mentioned earlier, in the 70s, people were not having these issues. What happened with the food? What happened with our stress level? What happened with our environment? This is where the key is. We cannot just throw a quick fix in there. And I'm sure somebody's going to say, well, I lost a ton of weight on that pill. What happened afterwards? And have you addressed your psychology in the meantime? Because if you haven't, you're guaranteed to gain weight. This is why most people that have done that crazy show where people drop most weight, Biggest Loser, most of them have gained the weight back because it was weight loss too quick and not addressing the psychology of weight loss. Psychology is huge. If you want to hear more about the subconscious and psychology and how all that works, I have a video ready for you. Click here and watch now.